on Nova Legends podcast, I have Woodson Coach Doug Craig, who's got the Cavaliers in the state final again. He won the state final in 2017, and the Cavaliers overcame a huge loss to South Lakes early in the year. They've done really very little things wrong, very few things wrong since then. Coach, congratulations. Thanks for doing this.
Julian, thank you again for having me on. I appreciate being here.
Oh, of course. Well, a little guy named Mike Desmond coaches South Lakes, and he's got his team back in the final as well. Uh, you know, talk about your affection for Mike Desmond and all the pleasantries that are going to go back and forward this week in preparation of the big game.
One of the things that I think sometimes the players and sometimes the people on the outside don't understand is how friendly a lot of us coaches are off the floor. How we like it's a very tight group. Guys talk to each other, guys go out and socialize together. Mike's a great guy. I really enjoy all my time with Mike. But we were texting this morning, in fact, and he congratulated us on the game. We talked a little bit of hoops, and I congratulate him. And then I ended the conversation with, Mike, I just want you to know I hate you for the rest of the week, and I'm going to go stick pins in my Mike Desmond voodoo doll, and I hope you get the flu again. That's what I told him this morning.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. I think we all feel that way about Coach Des.
Yeah, listen, he makes fun of my hair and my beard all the time, but for a guy who can't grow hair anymore, he's got an awful lot to say about it.
Exactly.
He's been
Yeah.
bald since he was like 15 years old. I don't understand why he's talking about anybody else's haircuts.
Well, if I have more hair than you, then that's a problem. Uh, well, I was just talking to my son about coming down and watching you guys play next week, and is it weird to you to play South Lakes in a state final at Richmond? Do you still wish we would kind of retool the state tournament so it's most of the bigger schools are in the northern part of the state, and it's the bigger schools and then Oscar Smith and Lansdowne every year.
Yeah.
Does it seem kind of funny playing South Lakes in the state final?
Yeah, it's a little weird that you got two schools that are, I don't know, South Lake and Woodson are separated by what, like 7 miles maybe,
Mhm.
and we're each driving 100 miles to play a game. I mean, I think the state final at VCU in Richmond and the capital and the center of the state, I think it's logistically it's a great idea, right? It can kind of bring everybody into one location. I used to like it better when they did the semifinals and the finals all in one week. I understand though that's a VCU. They don't want, they don't want to give up their facility for a whole week. Um, because I felt like you got more of a tournament feel, and I remember being a very young assistant coach and going down to the state tournament at VCU and going to watch multiple days and multiple games, and then even I know that. The some of the older coaches would talk about when it used to be at UVA or down at Liberty, they would go down, right? And they would watch, I think it was Liberty, right? They would go down and watch multiple games. They would stay there for 3, 4 nights and it was kind of like a de facto coaches convention too, where a lot of the coaches from the state were together. It was a chance for coaches to talk and interact. I feel like that's something that's lost a little bit with they've gone to this format. There's very few things that allow all the coaches to come and be in the same place at the same time. I do think the Virginia Live event that's going on in June, now that we're doing that for a couple of years and we're getting a better feel for how it's going to be run, there was some talk about getting the coaches together and being able to be social, and kind of sit down in the same room with some of these guys that you don't know very well from around the state. And I think that's important as a group of coaches, as we lobby the state for certain rule changes or certain ideas, that we're kind of united as a group. So, but yeah, it's a little strange, 7 miles apart going down to VCU. Although I don't think either team will complain about taking that bus ride.
Well, it's going to be fun. I'm glad the kids are. I'm glad your kids
Yeah,
got two bus trips out of it. Must have been the greatest feeling coming home last night. And I'm glad South Lakes will get another chance to do a bus ride. So I think it's important. My sister went to the state twice, and when I was in middle school, she was older than me, and we stayed for the whole weekend. And then even when my team got out, we lost some districts at Red Robinson. Me and a couple guys from Lake Braddock, Vince Santavica and Derek Hensley. Derek's dad was a longtime coach in the area. We drove down and stayed in a hotel and watched the whole tournament.
yeah,
Um, part of the problem with having so many classifications is that you can't really have the semifinals and finals in the same place. Back then, we only had three boys and we had only had one girls because two of the girls' classifications played in the fall. So it was very easy to have the whole tournament in one sitting. So it was amazing to just get lost in basketball. And I think that's hopefully we can figure something out. I don't know if they're trying to figure something out, but hopefully they will. And I definitely think it's great for the coaches to all get together as well. Hey, Coach, when you were at Woodson High School, Woodson has got an amazing sports tradition, especially basketball. But you know, Red Jenkins has dominated the history of that school, and everything that you do, you're in the shadow of the great Red Jenkins. But slowly, after about 20 years there, Coach, your number of wins is starting to grow. This is your second state championship. Are you too young to start thinking about your legacy and the the things that Doug Craig created at Woodson?
I mean, I'll be honest with you, I don't really care about that stuff. I feel like sometimes as coaches, we get way too much of the praise when things go well, way too much of the blame when things go bad. At the end of the day, all coaches can do is put kids in position to be successful. And, that's all I'm trying to do is just put our kids in position, put them in the right schemes, put them in the right concepts, get them to play together. And they have to make all the plays. The players make all the plays. I haven't made a shot in 20 years. They do all the good stuff. And as a coach, I think that's all you can do. Other people can talk about that stuff. I don't really care. Anybody who asks me, I always say Woodson boys basketball, that is Red Jenkins' program. He built it. He fostered it. He made it. He integrated the schools. He was around when integration happened. So I think he is huge in the pantheon of coaches in Northern Virginia. Woodson is his program, and I always tell him that when he's around. It's his program. He can talk to our kids anytime he wants. He can come to any practice. Red built it. Mike Flugrath revived it when I think we fell on hard times for a couple of years. My job is just to steward it and keep it at a level that's acceptable for them and to steward it to the next guy. That's the way I look at it. It will always be Red's program. His name is on the gym, and rightly so. He did more for the school than any coach could ever be asked to do. Just the fact that, when you talk to African American community in Northern Virginia, what Red meant in terms of having an integrated team and prominent African American players, I you know nothing I could do could ever top the importance of that.
He also uses contacts to help other opposing players as well. He was so well connected. Did he make it to the game yesterday?
No, he's actually down in North Carolina right now. I'm hoping he'll get back for the state final. I don't know. I haven't. We're going to talk later this weekend. But he did text me last night after the game. I guess he watched it online. But yeah, like he's just so. I just think he's such an influential guy. I mean, I think there are certain coaches in Northern Virginia in the history that have just been so influential. Red, obviously, with all his contacts with colleges and how many players he got to play at the next level and helped. Like he just did so much for the game in Northern Virginia. I feel the same way about like a Wendell Bird did so much for the game in Northern Virginia. And there's certain guys that just mean more than just wins and losses. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, he's great, great man. And I'm glad Red is still, uh, he's very active and still drives. He does doing great things. Now, look, your season began this year with a loss to South Lakes. I was there that day. That was the only time seen you play live. I've seen you on video numerous times. Did it hurt your team to lose that game? When you look back on it, could that have been a good loss for you?
I mean, I think if nothing else, it got our attention. I feel like my group has known they're good. I mean, they know they're good. They knew that at the start of the season. It's a group personality wise, it's a little different kind of group, especially with certain. We have some big personalities, and I think that loss kind of galvanized them a little bit. I think it kind of got their attention. We just played so poorly that night. I mean, we were just not we were never in that game. And they were dialed in on everything they do. And I think our kids got to see up close what a championship level performance looks like. And I think that they went away from that game feeling like, all right, we got to get ourselves together and get focused. And I think the season has been a slow build towards hopefully playing well at this time of the year. So yeah, I think sometimes losses can be good. Um, I think that, South Lakes is, they're the defending champions for a reason. It's a great program. Coach Desmond and his staff do a wonderful job. They got great players. They're very connected. And I felt like that the first night, like I felt like they were a very connected team and we were not, and the results showed it. Hopefully we've improved to the point where we can give them a better showing next Saturday when we play down at VCU, and the game will be a little bit more competitive because it was not that night, and our kids know that, and they they took it, and I think they learned from it, and hopefully we'll continue to learn from it this week. We'll pull out that film and show it to them. So
Yeah. Well, Coach, one thing about your team, and I didn't really notice this visually when I saw them, but on paper, you're a very small team by modern standards. Theo is your starting point guard is 6 foot. Kalen is 6'1". I mean, he's a tremendous jumper. Noah, your all region player of the year, swingman is 6'3". Ryan, your junior, he's a junior forward, he's 6'1". And your post Taylor, your forward, Will Taylor is 6'5". Modern standards, players are long these days. Colin Morgan comes off the bench and he's 6'3". So when you thought about this team, um, did it did you when did you think this team could be a championship team? That this is the kind of team like your 2017 team could win a state championship?
yeah, I mean we talked about this on earlier podcasts. I definitely felt like, I felt like going to season every year there's, 8 to 12, 10 to 12 teams that really have a legitimate chance to win the whole thing. Um, and I think that I thought going into the season we were one of those teams this year. Like it wouldn't have surprised me if we were playing at the end of the year. Not that I was expecting it, but like it wouldn't have been a shock. I knew we had kids, like at the end of the day, like it's funny to listen to other people talk about our team. They think that we're not that talented, we're not that good, we're just a good team. I mean, I got 5 starters that are going to play college basketball. There's not that many teams around the state that have 5 starters that are going to play college basketball. And people get caught up in Division 1, Division 2. It doesn't matter. They're going to play college basketball. I mean, Colin Morgan comes off our bench. He's got 4 or 5 schools talking to him right now. So we have talent. It's just not our talent isn't like necessarily guys that are just jumping, playing above the box and doing that
Mhm.
kind of stuff. They're basketball players. They're skilled. They can shoot. They can dribble. They can pass. They play well together. So I knew we had a good team. Obviously I didn't expect this, but I thought that we could compete with just about anybody, and on a given night we could win. Um, I think we're not the biggest team, but I think we're a very physical team, and I think our kids, there is no back down in our kids at all. Even last night, going down the 757, Oscar Smith, very, very good team, hostile environment. Oscar Smith likes to get up in you. They like to pressure you. They like to. I say this I say this in the complimentary ways. They like to bully, and in a complimentary way. Like they're not. They get up in you, and there was no back down in our kids last night. Absolutely none. I think our kids actually sometimes initiated the physicality because they were just not going to be cowed. And I think that's a product of playing in this area, right? Like, we play summer league up at DeMatha. We play DeMatha in the summertime. We play, good council and Catholic League teams and PG County teams. Our kids aren't afraid. Um, and I think when you have a team that has some good talent and kids that like each other and play together and they're not afraid to go compete, it's a pretty good combination.
How were the officials last night? Like I know we had officials from local areas, which I don't like. It's one thing to play in a neutral site, but to me, you got to get officials from other parts of the state because the officials are local. They have a relationship with one of the teams, and it's just different. And you don't want to put yourself in that situation. How'd you feel the officials were last night?
I thought it was fine. Honestly, I was concerned about that going into the game. I don't worry so much that it's like this inherent bias. I think it's more like my concern is just sometimes when officials haven't seen you play. They just don't know your style and how your kids play. All the officials up here at Cardinal, like they know if Woodson and West Potomac play each other, it's going to be physical. Like it just is. Um, but I thought the officials last night were fine. There were a couple calls that I thought, all right, like maybe those were, them not being familiar or maybe a little reputation calls or whatever. But I thought they didn't impact the game one way or the other. I thought they pretty much let us play. They were approachable. I do think one of the good things is, if you get to this point, right, in theory, you're getting very good officials doing these games, guys who have ref big games before, who are maybe college officials as well. So, I think they're experienced guys. I think sometimes in the regular season, because there's so many games, you do get some younger officials who maybe aren't as experienced, who just are still learning in the learning process. You're not going to get an Adam Brick every night. Um, so, I think sometimes maybe the officiating suffers a little bit not because they're bad guys or they're just not as experienced. Just like sometimes when you have teams that aren't as experienced, they struggle a little bit. So, but I thought they were fine last night. There were no issues.
Yeah. Well, if Doug says they're fine, the calls must have gone Woodson's way because you're tough with officials. But I will say the 757. I think they have some of the best officiating in the state. So I'm not surprised you got a good game. Now, I talked to Carlos and Sherman last week, Poindexter from Hayfield, Rivers from Patriot, and they both picked you guys to win. And they're not the kind of guys.
Troublemakers both. Troublemakers.
No, they don't throw around compliments, especially Sherman. Carlos can be polite, but Sherman is not going to give anyone credit that doesn't deserve it. They both were pretty confident you guys were going to win, which was it was interesting to me because when I saw Oscar Smith play in December, I saw them beat Potomac by 40, and Potomac went to the regional semis and they went to the state last year, and I saw them beat Wakefield, decent 500 team, beat them both by 40, and best team I saw all year. I mean, they had Travis Johnson, 6'6", mean as a snake. He's a Division I football athlete. This guy, Jacoby Harper, guard player of the year down there, very good. Anthony Lewis, a left-hander that can finish in traffic and very long, and just well coached. They both kind of chuckled and said, "Yeah, Oscar Smith will be tough. You wait till the postseason." They said that back then. And then they said it again on the podcast. They were both very confident you were going to win. I was surprised. My son, who saw Oscar Smith twice, was surprised as well because that's how good they played that time. Going in, how good did you think they were? And were you as confident as Rivers and Poindexter appeared to be?
Well, I'm never totally confident. Um, no, listen, I thought they were really good. I mean, I saw the film of those games you saw. It was impressive what they did. I was able to watch them play Colonial Forge. I saw film on that. I was able to pull some of the regular season films. I saw outstanding team. Like Coach Griffin does a really good job. They play hard, they're tough. Like I said, they bully, and I mean that complimentary. Like they're just they're bullies, and I think that's great. Within the rules. I mean, I don't. They're not doing anything, outside of the realm of basketball, but they're intimidating group. Athletically, obviously, they can do some things. Was I confident? Yeah, I think that our kids. Listen, we play in the Patriot District. We play West Potomac. We play South County. We play Fairfax. We play a lot of these teams are similar. They're physical, they're athletic, they get up in you, they make it hard on you. Our kids play like that all the time. Don't let I think sometimes people they see the Woodson kids right, and our kids are polite and they're maybe not as demonstrative. Well, except for Noah. Noah's demonstrative, and
It's a wealthy district too, Coach.
yeah. I mean our kids, but our kids in terms of competition they're not afraid and they're going to go. And like I said, we schedule, tough games in the non-district for that reason to prepare us for our league, number one. And then I think our league helps prepare us for that. So I think our kids weren't going to be intimidated. That was actually one of the messages we had to them before they go out that you will not back down. You will not be intimidated. You're not going to be cowed by anybody. And we just demand that of them at Woodson, which is just what we do as a coaching staff. That's why we play the games we play because we want them. We know that if you're going to win at this level and you're going to make a deep run, you have to be prepared to win a game playing like that. They're not all going to be masterpieces of ball movement and scoring 68, 70 points and 25 assists. Sometimes you're just going to have to get down and be physical and win the game with your defense and your rebounding and being physical on the ball, not turning and not giving it up. And you got to be able to be prepared to win many different styles.
Mhm.
And I think that's one of the things that when you go on a run like this, and I think having been through this before, you learn that you can't just play one style and win a state title. You have to be willing to adapt and play different kinds of styles based upon the opponent because there's a lot of different styles of basketball and there's a lot of different ways teams play. So this group is kind of equipped to play that way because I think we got a lot of guys can dribble, pass, shoot. So we're not like beholden upon one or two guys doing all the ball handling. Like like last night, one of the things we did was we knew that Will Taylor could be a natural pressure release because their big guy did not like to leave the paint. So anytime they really put a lot of pressure on our guards and we're trapping, we would just have Will come back, catch the ball, and bring the ball up the floor because we knew that was a favorable matchup for us.
Hmm.
So, well, that's just one of the things with the way this team is built. And not all of our teams have been built that way. It's just the way this team is. So
Hmm.
they're kind of equipped to play that style. So were we confident? Yeah, we felt like we could go down there. We went down to 7-5-7 and won a game against Kings Fork, who's I think, a similar type of team to Oscar Smith, and very talented. We were able to go down there in December. We went up to Pennsylvania and won a couple tough games. Our kids were actually, I think we've played better on the road than we've played at home this year, frankly. I think we've only lost one road game to South Lakes, and neutral floor games. I think we haven't lost a game. So I knew we could go into a hostile venue and play well. Now, I knew they were good too. So, like I said, all these games, state tournament games, they can go either way. Everybody's really good. Everybody's got all district players. Everybody has college players. Everybody's got kids. Every coaching staff is good. You know, it's just sometimes about lining up and having a good game plan and just playing well at the right time.
Well, absolutely, Coach. Well, one thing that you've been able to do against Hayfield, actually all three games, Hayfield, Westfield, and Oscar Smith, is you're able to get up, and stay up, and that's so rare in modern basketball. Everyone gets a run. I mean, you even tell your kids, "Oh, they're going to make a run." We've accepted that's the way basketball is. You guys have been able to get leads in these three games and basically maintain a 10-point cushion throughout. That's very rare. Why is this team able to do that?
Yeah, it's funny. I think a really key game for us in this regional and state playoff run happened before. I think it was the district final. We played West Potomac. We had to lead the whole first half. And third quarter, they came out and put together a great third quarter. We were behind about halfway through the third quarter, all the way to about 2 minutes to go. I think we got down as much as like 6 or 7 points early in the fourth quarter, and our kids just didn't blink, and they got the game back, and they ended up pulling that game out by 5 or 6 points at the end. I think that gave us a lot of confidence. I think that gave our kids a lot of confidence. The last couple of years we had been close to breaking through in these really big games, but we would always, like, it'd be a tie game with 2 minutes to go, we'd be down with 2 minutes to go, and we just couldn't quite put the finishing touches on it last year and even the year before. Where I think that game, the fact that they were able to pull that game out in a really big spot against a really good opponent, and a seasoned, experienced championship team level opponent, I think that gave us a lot of confidence. And I think since then, I think our kids know that they can play with anybody and they can win against anybody if they just play together and share it. It was almost like that was the game that allowed them to realize, oh, we can actually do this. And I think since the regional tournament started, we have been kind of front running and playing really well. But I think they know that even if they get in a tight spot, that they can pull it out. And I think that having that confidence and that knowledge allows you to play a little freer. And I think we're playing pretty free and confident right now.
Yeah. It says a lot about a team though when they can get a lead, not get cocky, keep focusing. It's not easy to do. I mean, it's three games in a row of playing like that. And these aren't teams you're way better than. These are teams that are very competitive than you on paper. So you're doing the things that you need to do while you had the lead. There's no let up. That's a rare benefit of a team, or I should say a rare attribute of a good team. It says a lot about coaching as well. What on paper, Coach, these guys are very athletic and fast, and they can get their own shots. How did you match up with them defensively?
I think one of the key things we talked about all week, well, I mean, since Tuesday, about Oscar Smith was we wanted to make sure we controlled the tempo of the game. We didn't want to. Listen, we're not afraid to run up and down the floor. Like, I know we don't play like in the 90s and 80s, but we don't exactly like walk the ball up the floor and play in the 20s either. Like, we kind of play in that middle area. I think we can go fast when we need to. I think we can slow the game down when we need to. With this team, with Oscar Smith, we wanted to make sure we controlled the tempo of the game. We did not want to allow them to get out in a lot of open court. We wanted to keep them out of transition. We didn't want to give up 3-on-3s and 2-on-2s and 3-on-2s and 2-on-1s. Like, we wanted to make sure when they had to go and score, they had to score against our 5-man unit. Because I think defensively, we're pretty good in a 5-man unit. Like, teams don't get a lot of like great open, wide open shots against us. They have to earn them. And we felt like if we could do that, one of the things we didn't feel like they're an outstanding team, great defensive team, athletic. I didn't think they were the most skilled team we played against all year long. So we felt like if we could make them play against our 5-man unit, they would have a difficult time scoring a lot of points if we could keep them getting the cheap ones out of transition. And we felt like sometimes they shoot the ball and it's almost like they're shooting it almost up at the glass and the rim to almost go get the offensive rebound, get the putbacks. And if we could make them do that and then we could be physical on the glass and kind of keep them off the offensive backboards, we would have a chance to keep them at a reasonable number. We did not do a very good job on the backboards in the first quarter and a half of the game, but I felt as the game went on, we did a little better job with that. I mean, look, they're going to get some offensive rebounds. I mean, the Travis Johnson kid's playing up above the square. I mean, he's shooting it and getting back up off the floor before our kids even land sometimes. Um, but we felt like if we could control that and keep them out of transition, no live ball turnovers, no steals, no throw the ball away, cross court, and they steal and go get a run out, that we could control the tempo of the game and kind of keep the scoring at a reasonable number. And I just feel like with the kind of guys we have offensively, with how well we can handle the ball and pass it, and we got a lot of guys who can make shots, that we can score points. I mean, even as good as defensively they are, we felt like we could score. Um, so we felt like it was really important tempo, making them score against our 5-on-5 unit, not necessarily get a lot of runouts. And we felt like we would have a chance if we did that.
Yeah. You have any problem getting out of the building last night, Coach?
Actually, no, absolutely. It's so funny. I was talking about that with my wife this morning, and she's like, "Yeah, but when the kids came out for warm-ups, you could almost see their crowd was eyeing our kids up and like these guys got no shot in this game." But then I would say about halfway through the third quarter, it almost like turned, and the place got really quiet because I think they knew that we were controlling the game, and I think they knew that they were in a dogfight, and it didn't look like we were gonna bow. We had no issues. I had actually had like 7 or 8 Oscar Smith fans and parents come up to us and tell us how well we played and how they loved how we played. So I've always found that with the 757. Um, they don't have a lot of respect for you at the start, but if you play well, you earn their respect, and they're very respectful. That's how I found. Like we've played down there a lot of times over the years, and I've always felt like after the games, they respect our kids and they show us a lot of love and are very complimentary. So we had no issues last night. Their administration treated us very well. From their principal to their athletic director, their coaching staff were very complimentary after the game. Um, it was hostile as it should be, right? You're playing in a state tournament game on their home floor. It should be. I would expect, listen, if it was at Woodson, I would expect our fans to be on top. Like that's the way it is.
Mhm.
But after the game, no issues at all. None.
Mhm.
We were treated well. I can't complain. I thought the officials were fine. Like I would love for there to be controversy to talk about, but there absolutely was none. It
Yeah.
was a great experience. Our kids had a really good night. Obviously the trip down and we did about an hour long shoot around. We were able to get to Norfolk Academy. I want to thank them for allowing us to get in their facility for an hour and get a little shoot around of the walkthrough. And then we got to Oscar Smith and got on the floor. We were able to warm up, no issues. They had the pep band playing. It was a great atmosphere. Uh, it was a really good experience for our kids. And obviously winning the game helps, but there's no complaints about anything.
The
I still don't
Madison, I'm sorry, the
I
Madison.
still I still don't think we should play in home courts in state tournament games. I still think they should be neutral floors because that's just the way I feel. But no, I mean there was no bad treatment last night at all.
They need to do a really deep analysis of what happens in other states and learn about how to conduct a tournament. But all you can do is play the game that's in front of you. The Madison fans, parents said that after Oscar Smith beat them in a thrilling football game, one of the best high school games I've ever seen in my life, one of the best football games I've ever seen in my life, period. Their parents, their supporters came over and congratulated the Madison parents on how well their kids handled themselves and played because they thought they were going to kill Madison, and Madison, just like you guys, punched him in the face. They're like, "Oh, this is a dog fight tonight." So I think people appreciate a fight, appreciate a good fight at that level. I did, Sean, my good friend Sean Patrick Burke was responding to something online. I guess there was some talking about how you guys may have held the ball. I didn't see the game. And look, there's no shot clock. We have to win. You have to play the game the way the game is allowed to be played. What was there some delay game? Did you guys hold the ball? What was these people? What were these people referring to?
I mean, I guess a little. I mean, it wasn't like we didn't hold it for like 4 minutes. I
Yeah.
mean, no, I mean, it was, well, I would say with about 4 minutes to go, we were up 12, 13 points. And at that point, we told our kids like layups and free throws. Like, the only shots we're shooting are is we're getting a layup, an open layup, or we're going to the free throw line. So let's cut hard, let's move the ball. But if we didn't have a layup or they weren't going to foul us, I was going to bleed the clock down. I mean, listen, I'm in favor. I'm a huge proponent of the shot clock. I love the shot clock. We play with it all summer league, up at the Math Summer League, and I love the shot clock. I would like to see it installed, but at the end of the day, there's no shot clock. So if we can hold the ball and we have a team that can hold it for 30, 40 seconds before we release it in a game where we have a lead, I'm going to do that. Even saying I would rather the shot clock, but I think even in shot clock, I think we would have been, if we had a 35-second or 45-second, we would have held the ball for 40 seconds before we would have shot. Like we would have used clock. I think that's what good teams do, understanding time and score and when to take a quick shot and when you have to, when the clock is your friend and when it's not. So it wasn't, I think there were some other games that the ball was held early, but we didn't do that. I mean, in the first half, we certainly didn't. Like we just ran our offense. And yeah, there were some longer possessions, some 20, 25-second possessions, but it was nothing like, I didn't think there was anything egregiously bad about it. I mean, we scored 58, what was it, 58, 46. I mean, it wasn't like, 28, 20, I don't know.
Yeah. There was, well, haters are going to hate. There was a huge upset in the area where you guys play. Where Green One apparently held the ball against top-rated Woodside, which was a huge upset, which would have put Riverside in the final against a team that they probably had a shot against. It's too bad that Riverside was knocked out. But anyway, that's the way it goes. So Coach, when do you begin thinking about South Lakes? As you know them really well, as a coach, this is a tempo where you have a whole week. So you guys got a whole week in the district tournament. You had a bye week, so you had this the same kind of tempo for the district tournament. But how are you going to handle this week, and how are you going to start? When are you going to start thinking about exactly how to approach South Lakes?
Yeah, I mean, I think our coaching staff will get together and talk tonight and just kind of get an idea of how we want to handle them. Obviously, it's a very different kind of team because you've got a great, great, great player. Not that there are other guys. There are other guys are good players too. Like I think that's one of the things people underestimate about them. They're like, oh, well, they talk about Jordan Scott only, but those other guys are good players. Like Merrick Realstone's a really good player. The Toshi Kid they're good. Like they're stars in their roles. So, but they have like a one truly elite player, and I think you have to talk about as a staff how you want to approach him and then match up with everybody else. So we'll talk tonight. We gave the kids off today. We had like I said, we got back late last night. We weren't going to bring them in today, so they got a day off. And obviously Sunday they're always off on Sunday. So Monday night we'll get back and I think we'll do some off the court, maybe go on the court for like 20 minutes or so, but it'll be mostly off the court. We'll probably get a weightlifting session and we'll probably do some yoga with the group, just to do a little recovery and then really start getting into it Tuesday because it's you do have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, like, and then Saturday, we'll have a shoot around at some point before we get on the bus, uh, where we can go over some. So there's a lot of prep time, and I think one of the things it's a different kind of rhythm because in basketball you're used to playing every 2 to 3 days, so this is a different rhythm. So you want to like build up to Saturday. I think that was our experience when we did this in the past, was kind of start small and build up to it and get them ready. And I think too, like if you start going over stuff on Monday, I don't know, maybe other coaches are better than I am, but our other kids are better. But like, well, our kids will be forgotten everything we talked about on Monday by
Yeah.
Wednesday. So you don't want to start like too much early with the cerebral start as part of it. You want to kind of start getting them right physically. And we have some kids that are, played a lot of minutes last night. They're a little banged up. Want to get them some rest and make sure they're healthy to go for next weekend. So you want to kind of balance those two things. But well, obviously we're familiar with them. Well, I don't watch them every night because they're in the other region. But I mean, we're familiar with them. We played them earlier in the year, and I've seen them play. Like I said, Coach Desmond and I are friends. I always, kind of pop in on my friends' games and just watch their teams play. And so I'm familiar with them, but we'll get more in depth with them, and then we'll have a game plan together by Sunday night, and then we'll start getting ready to implement things starting Monday, Tuesday, and build up as the week goes and see where it lies next Saturday.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to see the game, Coach. Coach, you did an amazing job this year. You went from, as you said, maybe we'll win 5 games this year, to having a team in the state final. That's what you said on the panel to begin the season.
I might have sandbagged a little bit saying we'd only win 5 games. I knew we were going to win more than 5 games. But hey, listen, we could do this later this week with me and Mike on together, and that
Would
would
you
be
do
great.
that? Would you do that?
Of course I would, but it might devolve into us just making fun of each other the whole time. We
Well,
might not get any basketball covered. It's just it'll be like WWE or something
yeah,
like that. Like, we'll just talk trash, and Mike will do like 90% of the talking. Just
yeah,
FYI. For the record, it might only even out if we have Sherm on there too to balance him out, and they
exactly.
can.
Yeah,
And I'll just stand on the side and laugh.
yeah.
Me and Los will
Yep.
stand and laugh.
And we could bring Scott Bach Hansen from Cardinal to
The
referee.
referee, yeah.
Yeah, we'll work something out. Well, if you guys are up for it, that'd be great. But anyway, look, Coach, this has been great. Thanks for making yourself available to talk to me today. These are great moments. There's nothing like a state tournament run. I've watched the movie Hoosiers a million times just because I love a state tourney run, and you get to live through it with these kids. These kids, you got what, one, two, three, four seniors getting a lot of playing time for you, and even your juniors though and sophomores. They'll never forget this run. It's magical. And then it's going to be one thing I fuss about VHSL, but VCU, the single center, it is a nice place to play ball game. It is a very
It's a
nice
great
arena.
venue.
It's a
It's a
nice,
great venue.
it's a good bit. It is, and it's great, easy to park. There's not a lot of restaurants nearby, but in terms of the game itself, it's going to be a great environment. And it's playing South Lakes on a 94-foot court, which is interesting, And last year they had a fast team. They're not the fastest team in the world this year, so that's a different element. 94-foot court. I don't. And so anyway, look, coaches, this has been great. Appreciate you taking the time, and best of luck getting prepared this week. And let's touch base later on this week.
Yeah, thank you for having me on again. I will say this too, one last thing just to chime in. Um, it'll be a great day for Northern Virginia basketball. Having two traditional Northern region teams in the state final against each other. I don't know if that has happened yet, where you had two old traditional Northern region teams. I know we've had a lot of Northern region teams have won a state title recently, but I don't know. Have we had two Northern
I don't. I
traditional Northern
don't.
region? I don't
I don't
consider
know.
Patriot a traditional Northern region. They're
Yeah.
Northwest region to
Yeah.
me. This might be the first time, so I think it says a lot for basketball in our area, and not just South Lakes and Woodson, but all the programs. Hayfield pushing it forward, and South County before that. And Alexander, and what's now Alexander, what was TC Williams breaking through back in 2000. What was that? It was 2000,
8.
2007
I think it
when
was 8.
they had broke that long drought for Northern Virginia teams. I know, we're on the Facebook group, right? And they talk about the Northern region teams, the basketball's so bad. I don't know. There's a lot of winning being done by 703 teams that were not being done for a long time. Not to disparage those players, but there's a word nostalgia for a region, right?
Yeah.
For a reason. We tend to remember things as being maybe sometimes a little greater than they were. These kids today are, hey, listen, 703 basketball is very strong right now. And granted, the six classifications helps. But I would also say 6A in terms of the depth is probably the hardest of the classifications to win because there's more good teams.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great night for 703 basketball that South Lakes and Woodson, and I think those are two of the traditional kind of Northern Virginia power teams. I think are hooking up, and I think it should be a great final.
It should be. And, we had this conversation the other day, me, you, and the Sherm and Carlos. Oh, actually, you weren't on the call. It's just me, Sherman, Carlos. But we forget these players today are so much more skilled and athletic than ever. Now, obviously, at the top end, we do lose more and more to the private schools, but consistency. I asked myself what I had started for a lot of these teams. I wasn't a great shooter. All the kids can shoot now, or most of the kids can shoot now. All the kids can dunk now. When I played, maybe one or two per team could dunk. So I think we assume the basketball was better 30 or 40 years ago. I'm not necessarily sold on that. I think the basketball today's plays really tough. I think the coaching's better than ever. To look what you've done with this team without a lot of size and losing two 6'6" guys plus. Mike lost a lot of talent this year. I mean,
Yeah.
he lost Saul Vida, he lost Brian Kennedy, the Rochesters, he lost
Yep.
Billings, lost a lot of players. And I think they're playing on the same level as last year in a very different way.
Yeah.
So, it would be hard. And 30 years ago, would we have gone down there beating the Oscar Smith team and down? No, those teams had the mental edge on us now. So when I hear people say about when they talk down about the basketball it's played in Northern Virginia public schools, I don't agree with it. Even when Sherman says it, I don't agree with it. I think the basketball up here is very strong.
Well,
So
and listen, that's not to disparage anything that happened before us because we're not here with the people who come before us. I think there has to be respect going across the
yes,
generational gap. There should
absolutely.
be respect that it's different. And I listen, going down to 757 is not a big deal anymore. These kids play AAU all summer long. They
Yeah.
travel all over the East Coast to play. They play against these kids from Oscar Smith in the summer, with their AAU team. So there's no awe factor anymore. I think a long time ago when you would hear about these guys from the 757, I'm sure, like I wasn't around, but I'm sure when they heard about Alonzo Mourning, the kids up here were petrified when they'd have to see those teams in the state tournament. But now, because they play them so many times, there's familiarity there. It's not scary anymore. And I just think that sometimes, it's going to be a great day for Northern Virginia basketball on Saturday. And I think hopefully the old heads will embrace it, the fact that we have two Northern Virginia teams and celebrate these kids who have worked so hard to get here. It's not about like the coaches, I could care less, but like the players, you only get one chance to be a kid. You get one chance at bite at the apple to play high school sports, and we should be more appreciative. These are still kids who are learning and developing, and they're getting to have a great experience, and hopefully both teams will put on a great show on Saturday.
Absolutely. It's going to be a festival of Northern Region, the former Northern Region basketball. I do think about Coach Griffin, and he's got to be feeling like if I can't win a state championship with this team, if you start beating the way they were beating teams all year, they lost one game all year. That must be devastating to lose with a team with that much talent. But that's the way it is. You got to come to play in the big games. And
So
whether
hard to
I'm not
win.
saying they didn't come to play, but they didn't get it done. And it must be a devastating loss on your home court. I can only imagine.
It's so hard to win a state title. Like you could have the best team and not win just because the nature of tournament basketball. You could just have a bad night on the wrong time against the wrong team. But I will say this, Oscar Smith, they've been pretty good now for a long time. I'd say in the last 10 years or so, they've been in the state tournament multiple times. They've won state tournament games. You just keep knocking on the door long enough with
Yeah.
enough good coaching staff and good players, eventually you're going to break through. I'm sure he will. I'm sure they're disappointed, but like that game doesn't take away from the tremendous season that they had. They had a great team. They played really well. They won a district and a regional title. You can't allow one night to define your season, just like we can't allow the first South Lakes game, the first night of the season, to define who we are. We had to find a way to overcome that. And I think sometimes we get stuck on the negatives and don't realize that there's always a chance to do more. And they're going to be bringing some kids back next year. I expect them to be good again next year. I'm sure they will be.
Yeah, Travis Johnson is a junior. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. I think Anthony Lewis is a senior. My son was so enthralled with him, he could not believe they lost. He says, "That's no one's beating that team." When I told him today they lost, he was like, "Wow." So anyway, it says a lot about you, Coach, and your boys. Shout out to Sean Burke and Theo Burke. Sean's my man, getting ready to start soccer season with Coach Burke.
Shout out Jade Burke for giving Theo all his toughness. Heck with
Exactly. Obviously.
it's all his mom. Listen, his mom's an art teacher.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where all the creativity
Yeah,
comes from.
definitely gave him his good looks. That's for sure. So, well, anyway, Coach, congratulations again, making the state run. Proud of you, man. Thanks for all you do for me. And let's talk later on this week.
All right, Julian, thank you very much.
I appreciate it, Coach. Take care.
All right.